B&M, Intamin, RMC, Mach Rides, Vekoma. These are the stars of the coaster world. At least, right now. The modern roller coaster goes back a century and a half, and some companies have made amazing thrill machines, only to make a wrong turn and find themselves dead and buried, survived only by their coasters that are still in operation. Today, let's go around the coaster world, find all of these dead manufacturers, and rank up their final coaster. There may be a lot of small-time manufacturers that have come and gone, but I'm going to stick to the main ones, with the exception of a couple I threw in that I don't normally include in these videos. My one honorable mention is Sensei Technologies, mainly because they're not dead. They actually have Vekoma and S&S working as subsidiaries for them, but they used to make their own coasters, 31 in total, and that stopped in 2014. You may have heard about Twist Coaster Robin, the ill-fated compact El Loco style coaster at Japan's Yomiuri, opening for one day and having two trains collide, spelling the end of this ride and ending the era of Sensei Technologies. They built the first coaster in 1952, and prior to Twist Coaster Robin, they hadn't built a coaster since 1998, so not sure what possessed them to build a coaster 16 years later, but it didn't work out, and this might be the shortest lived coaster of all time. Number 11. Hopkins, new Wild Mouse coaster at Misaki Park, opened in 1996, closed in 2020. Okay, this company isn't dead. They're still in the water ride business, but they haven't built a coaster in almost 30 years, so I'm putting them on this video. They built 7 coasters between 1985 and 1996, their specialty being multi-looping coasters, but they ended with a Wild Mouse. This thing looks quite Hopkins to say the least. I don't know what to say about that profiling, but hey, I can't say it's not interesting, even if it looks like that. I can't imagine it was good, so I'm putting this in last place. Number 10. Togo, Flounder's Flying Fish Coaster at Tokyo Disney Sea, opened in 2001. They're also not defunct officially. They still make parts for rides, but after being sued by Knott's Berry Farm over Windjammer, winning that case but still falling into bankruptcy, they stopped making coasters after Flounder's Flying Fish Coaster. Building 71 coasters between 1953 and 2001, this Japanese manufacturer didn't do a lot of work outside their country. They had some models in the US, but the Big Apple coaster is the only one left, and they weren't really known for their family coasters, but this is exactly that. This opened with Disney Sea, a pretty compact family coaster that has 787 feet of track and maxes out at 20 miles an hour, and I was super close to making this my 700th coaster. It's smooth, it pulls some decent force, it's really not a bad family coaster, I just can't put this any higher. Number 9. The Roller Coaster Corporation of America, Coaster Express at Parque Warner Madrid, opened in 2002. RCCA was an American wooden coaster company, responsible for 6 coasters, their first project coming back in 1992. That was the Rattler, headlining the brand new Fiesta Texas, and their last was Coaster Express, carrying on their trademark of big, long wooden coasters. You hear a lot of bad things about RCCA coasters. Many YouTube hours have been dedicated to studying the Son of Beast disaster, and that was the trend, not the exception. Coaster Express apparently is a rough mess also. 120 feet tall, 4,600 feet of track, 59 miles an hour, 2 big helices. So if it is as rough as they say, the bad news is the ride lasts a long time, so good luck. But maybe it's got decent forces, so I'm still putting it ahead of Togo and the Flying Fish Coaster. RCCA closed shop 3 years after this opened in 2005. Number 8. Misho Amusement Machines, Spin Turn Coaster at Nasu Highland Park, opened in 2004. Yeah, we are including Misho on this list, and this Japanese manufacturer does still exist. They're part of the Sonoyas Corporation, making up their leisure division, but they don't make coasters anymore. They did build 102, the first in 1957, the last one being this weird 10-car spinning coaster at Nasu Highland. You rise up 70 feet and wind down 1,640 feet of track at 29 miles an hour, spinning the whole time. So despite not having much of a layout, the spinning factor might save the ride. Number 7. Giovanola, Titan at Six Flags Over Texas, opened in 2001. Serving as Intamin's subcontractor since the early 80s, it wasn't until 1999 that this Swiss company built their own coaster, an invert called Anaconda in South Africa. They went on to build 2 more, Goliath at Magic Mountain in 2000, and a near clone, Titan at Over Texas in 2001. They only built 3 coasters, but they're all still operating, Titan and Goliath being tied for 9th in terms of world's biggest drop at 255 feet. Titan includes an extra helix before the mid-course brake run, an extremely intense moment, bringing that track length to over a mile. This was just repainted for the 2025 season, and looks like it has a long future at Six Flags Over Texas. After Titan was complete, the rides division of Giovanola filed for bankruptcy, and the company as a whole followed suit in 2004. Number 6. The Din Corporation. Mean Streak at Cedar Point. Opened in 1991, closed in 2016. In 1983, Charles Din left his post as Director of Construction, Maintenance, and Engineering at Kings Island, and formed his own company, building 10 wooden coasters between 1988 and 1991, including some of the biggest and longest out there. His final coaster was Mean Streak, 161 feet tall, well over a mile of track, a project so massive, one member of the crew in charge of building it said he felt like it would never end. It was the world's tallest wooden coaster and lasted a good 25 years, and as you would expect, this got rough and was hard to maintain, the park finally deciding to let RMC take the project on and turn this into Steel Vengeance. This was obviously a great upgrade, but I never hated Mean Streak. In 2002, I thought it was super intense and a very good ride, but by its final year, it was like riding a washing machine, so I can't blame the park for pulling the plug. Charles Din retired shortly after this. The company went out of business in 1992, but his daughter went on to form her own wooden coaster company, and that leads us to our next entry on this list. Number 5. Custom Coasters International, New Mexico Rattler at Cliffs Amusement Park, opened in 2002. CCI gave us 10 great years from 1992 to 2002. Denise Din Lyric more than tripling the output of her dad's company, 34 coasters in total, some of these still being top-tier wooden coasters to this day. New Mexico Rattler is located at a tiny park in Albuquerque, New Mexico, but it's a full-size Woody, 80 feet tall, 2,750 feet long, and offers up a really good ride with really good forces. Maintenance seems a little spotty. Last time I rode this in 2022, it jackhammered all my teeth out, but I marathoned it in 2017 and it was fine. This coaster wasn't even done yet when CCI went bankrupt, Denise Din Lyric going through a divorce, so the park had to finish the ride themselves, but it worked out. This is still going strong 23 years later. CCI lives on with the Gravity Group, a group of engineers forming that company right after and building their first coaster in 2005. Number 4. Philadelphia Toboggan Coasters, Screamin' Eagle at Six Flags St. Louis, opened in 1976. Before Din or CCI, there was PTC, dating back to 1904, and they're responsible for most of the classic wooden coasters you know and love, 127 between 1904 and 1976, and this company is still actually around. They manufacture queue gates, brakes, and of course, coaster trains. You still see those used on wooden coasters of all kinds. However, over the years, they've employed all kinds of legends in the coaster design world, including John C. Allen, and when Allen retired in 1976, PTC was out of the new coaster game. Screamin' Eagle at Six Flags St. Louis was the final project, 1 week newer than Thunder Road at Carowinds, and where that was taken out for a water park expansion, Screamin' Eagle is still going strong in the back of Six Flags St. Louis. 110 feet tall, 3,900 feet of track, hitting 62 miles an hour on that L-shaped layout out in the trees. It's a great ride, but maintenance is important. Like New Mexico Rattler, I've had some good rides and some horrendous rides, but that doesn't take away from the quality of this classic wooden coaster. Apparently, it was John C. Allen's favorite design of his career, and it lives on as an ace coaster landmark. Number 3. Schwarzkopf, Thriller on the German traveling circuit, opened in 1986, wound up closing in 2014. Of all the manufacturers on this list, Schwarzkopf's final coaster was by far the hardest one to nail down. A lot of these were built and put on the traveling circuits, not landing at a permanent park until later, but based on everything I've read, and based on Ace's Legacy of Schwarzkopf documentary, it seems like Thriller was the last one. In 1986, Schwarzkopf teamed up with Oscar Bruch and his traveling fair to build a compact coaster with 4 loops. This called Thriller, and it would finally land at an actual park in 1996, Gröna Lund in Sweden, and that would move 3 more times. Astroworld to Marine World to Island San Marcos in Mexico, finally being scrapped in 2014. I never got to ride this, but it looked very intense. Those big circular loops pulling big time G-forces. Anton Schwarzkopf, the man, would go on to design other coasters for other manufacturers, like Olympia Looping for BHS, and he officially retired in 1995. But as for his company, Schwarzkopf, I believe Thriller was the last one. Number 2. D.H. Morgan, Superman El Ultimo Escape at Six Flags Mexico, opened in 2004. In 1983, Dana Morgan, the son of the co-founder of Aerodynamics, launched his own company out of California, originally meant to build carousels, but that morphed into building coaster trains, and by the mid-90s, roller coasters. D.H. Morgan would build 8 coasters from the ground up, plus their work on renovating Steel Phantom in 2001, and shortly after that, Dana Morgan retired and sold his assets to Michael Chance to create Chance Morgan, now known as Chance Rides. So wait, if D.H. Morgan ceased to exist in 2001, how was their last coaster from 2004? Well, they built this coaster in 2001, slated for a 2002 opening, but there was a dispute between Six Flags and the government of Mexico, finally resolved in 2004, and the coaster was able to open. This is supposedly the best that Morgan has to offer, much different from their other hypers. 220 feet tall, 5,600 feet of track, 75 miles an hour. I've heard nothing but great things, and I hope one day I can ride Morgan's best. Number 1. Aerodynamics. X at Six Flags Magic Mountain, opened in 2002. I'm sure you all saw this coming. Aero being one of the best innovators in coaster history, starting in 1945 and building their first coaster in 1959, reintroducing the inverting coaster in 1975, cracking the 200-foot barrier in 1989. But they weren't without their problems. They were bought out several times, but they kept on trucking through the 90s. 98 coasters in total, and they found themselves going toe-to-toe with some of the new companies trying to stake their claim as the great new innovators of the 21st century, Intamin and B&M. They tried to break the coaster height record in 2001, the massive 740-foot tall fishhook coaster coming out of the Las Vegas stratosphere, but that was cancelled. Aero did have one play in the new coaster war, and that was the Fourth Dimension coaster, the prototype being X at Magic Mountain, the first coaster to ever have wing seating, the first coaster to have seats that would spin on their own axis, controlled by an extra set of rails, and starting with a 215-foot drop at 88.5 degrees. This was set to be the craziest coaster ever built. The good news is, X lives on to this day as one of the country's best coasters, but all the problems Aero had getting this ready for prime time pushed them over the edge and into bankruptcy. S&S buying their catalog and wound up saving the ride in 2007. Those renovations transforming this into X2, and Alan Schulke going to work for S&S until RMC hired him to start making hybrids. It's a shame Aero had to die, but they left one heck of a coaster in their wake. That's a wrap on the final coaster of defunct manufacturers. Let me know what you think of the list, if there was a manufacturer I missed, and if you have any other thoughts, sound off in the comments below. Before you go, don't forget to drop a like, and if you're new here and love coasters, please give me a sub. I want to thank my Patreons. If you want bonus access, bonus content, and have your name listed at the end of each video, check my links below and join. Also, check out my second channel, where I post copyright-free off-ride footage. Everyone have an awesome Halloween, and I'll see you all next time.